Hey guys, Kill Stokes here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. I have a very exciting episode for you guys today because I have a very special guest on. My second interview for the podcast. So Mike, you should feel very flattered that someone like me has decided to interview you. No.
I am very flattered.
I appreciate it. It's my good buddy Mike. We've spoken many of times. I've done interviews with him. We've done Instagram lives. We've shared each other's posts and talked a lot on social media. And I'm excited to bring him on because he's one of the few people out there that I know is not only a good trader and investor, but is doing things for the right reason. Is using trading as a tool to do something else. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but I just got a message of someone asking, the whole, well, why do you teach if you can't trade? And people just don't understand. It's about value and making a bigger difference. Like, yes, we can always trade and invest for ourselves and be selfish like that, but it's trying to impact others. And I know one of your goals is to help people become more financially responsible, more financially aware, and that's how you make long-lasting changes over generations, not just to you personally and your family. So, well, without spoiling your mission too much, you want to give our viewers a quick introduction, not a quick introduction, as long as you want, an introduction of just who you are and kind of how you got into, how you fell in love with the markets and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, 100%, man. And thank you so much for the very kind, very flattering introduction. That was amazing. I'm gonna take this and like just have it like playing in the background and on repeat.
Oh, man.
But yeah, you kind of hit on a few really important things about teaching too, and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, well, which I'm completely focused on coaching and teaching it and helping others. And I had a business before where I was doing research and analysis, and that was a lot of fun too. But it was last year that I really discovered what my real purpose is, and it's to be on this mission to help coach and guide other people in that way. And the way that I found it was through this process called Your One Word. It's a book written by this guy, Carmichael. He's a YouTuber. He has almost like 2 million subs now, and he profiles the top 10 like people that have had incredible success, all walks of life. Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, Oprah, Tony Robbins. If they've been successful, this guy has profiled them. And he wrote this book, Your One Word, and I found out that my one word is right there, written on the back wall, inspire. And what I found out what that means to me was perseverance, love, and it also means that you are not just inspiring yourself, but you're doing things that are worthy of inspiration.
Nice. Very,
Right?
very, very nice. I just wrote that book down, so definitely going to add it to my list. And how did you come about discovering that was your word? I'm sure it's a process, and people can read the book and whatnot. But how did you kind of? There's so many words out there. How did you settle on inspire for that to be your word, your mission?
You know that I'm glad you brought that up because there's a real interesting backstory to this. So as you read through the book, Evan gives you a bunch of different ways to figure out what your one word is, like things that are like a common thread throughout your history, books that you enjoy reading, movies that you like that. They tend to have common themes, and so I thought that I like superhero movies, like inspiring things like that. Iron Man was one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. So all right, so inspire. But then as I went through more of his coaching and I actually went through his thought leadership workshop last year. it dawned on me that, well, like it's not really from like books or movies or anything like that. It actually came from my father. Um, and the reason why is because I'm not sure how familiar you are personally with my backstory, but
Yeah.
the audience, well, when I had a real messy childhood,
Hmm.
and uh, at the maybe about 5 years old, my parents split up. I was living with my mom, my stepdad, and by 6, he lost his job, and we were evicted from our home, and we were homeless. And so after being homeless for about a month or so, my mom's like, you know what? Michael doesn't need to live like this. I'm going to go call up your dad and you're going to go live with him.
Hmm.
And so he drives 2 hours in the middle of the night to come pick me up from the place that we were staying at. We were like at one of those seedy motels that you kind of see in the movies. Oh man, that
The ones you don't want to be at night.
yeah, no, yeah, like things scurrying across
Oh man.
different places. But yeah, he drove out there, picked me up, and I went kicking and screaming because she told me all kinds of terrible stories about him, and he's this, like he's a drunk, he's this, he's that, and
Yeah.
just uh, did not paint a very nice picture of my dad. No,
Yeah.
like, and so we had a lot of friction for like 10 years, right?
Hmm.
And so he persevered through all that, came out to get me. He loved me throughout all this, and it was that belief, right? And that's another part of the credo too,
Hmm.
belief in me that it's like, wow, like it, all this really stems from him. So it's like this is great. Inspires my one word. It comes from him, and uh, going through this entire metamorphosis, it actually inspired me to tell him this
Hmm.
uh, last year on his 70th birthday.
Nice. Nice.
And so yeah, and my dad and I we became a lot closer after we got past like all that friction. But well, we barely even say I love you to one another, let alone sharing stuff like this. And so
Yeah.
I come out and I tell him, Dad, in front of the whole family, right? Dad, like I just want to tell you, like you're my hero, and this is the reason why I read this book, and like I found out that my one word is inspire, and this is well what it means to me, and you're the foundation for that. And like he starts breaking down and everything, and it was a real touching moment, and I thank God every day that I had him to give me all that, and that I had the courage to go and tell him all this. And one of the reasons why too is that unfortunately he's not with us anymore. He passed
Oh,
away just about a month and a half ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
but at least, I mean, at least you got to get that out, which is, I mean, I've kind of a similar situation with my dad. Not as far as the friction. Me and my dad have a close relationship, but just like from a man perspective, it's hard to say, hey, I love you, man, and stuff like that, and stories like that make you kind of realize that you don't want to wait until it's too late to say that. You can't be afraid to express yourself, and that's always something I've respected about you is you're so open with your feelings, in just letting it out there, being yourself, being very comfortable in your own skin. And I think that's important, and that's probably something that's led to your success in trading as well. But what's interesting is you say that Iron Man is your kind of your superhero. You love superheroes, and all superheroes, right? In order to become a legend or a superhero, you have to go through some type of adversity, right? Your story is written kind of by you have this downfall, this very struggling situation, and you climb your way out of it, and you read the book and like, oh yeah, that's awesome, he did it, like the classic comeback story. And I think that's important in trading too. And I know you've worked with a lot of traders where you kind of have to accept the suck a little bit. Like it's I think too many traders or too many people in general want the easy path in life. And the easy path doesn't provide those lessons which are needed um, to become successful. And I like what you're doing as far as like walking people through that path and saying that, hey, this is going to be dirty, it's going to be hard, it's going to be rough, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you approach it with a positive attitude. Because I think if you approach things with a positive attitude, you're just going to take things in a different light. Even your step backs, you're going to be looked at as kind of opportunities to move forward. So it's really cool to hear that story, and kind of explains a lot about why you're doing and why you chose Inspire.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, a positive attitude is essential, right? But it's not everything.
Yeah.
Right? It's more than just like rah rah, let's go crush the market, and you have a hope and a prayer, and let's roll the dice. And well, what my mortgage just went poof. Yeah, no, it's important to have a plan and a process and something that you're going to backtest and make sure that things work and continuously refine what your process is. That there's another story in that too. Like I had a solid process where my equity curve was marching along, and then my daughter was born. Right? My daughter just turned 4.
Nice.
And I thought that I had my process all worked out, the equity curve moving up, and she was born, and then things started fluctuating, and it's like, well, what's going on? Like, I'm doing the same kinds of things, right?
It's your daughter's fault.
Yeah, clearly it's her fault.
Blame her. That's the only thing I see. It's got to be the daughter.
Well, it's where my mentality changed, where I wanted to be a good dad. I had this idea of what being a good dad, right? Like keep on coming back to, and it's funny that like Father's Day is around the corner, that we're talking about like all this dad stuff. But yeah, like I had this idea in my head that being a good dad was being there for her, and like through every moment, and waking up in the middle of the night, and all these kinds of things. And trading started to take a back seat, right? But I also had clients that I needed to service too, because I was running that other business where I'm doing research and analysis. And so like what used to take me just maybe 4 or 5 hours on a weekend to do everything now ballooned into 20, right? So it's like, here's 20 hours on the weekend, plus a day job, plus trying to do my own trading, plus trying to be a dad. Like I started to get overweight. I was getting sick. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. And it was rough. I was almost ready to pack it all in and just pull the plug on everything. Thankfully, I had some really good people step into my life that helped take over some of the burden from trading, helped me get my mindset right, and also with my business too. And that allowed me the time to step back and be like, all right, like how do I make all this stuff work with a new lifestyle, right? And so I outsourced a lot of the research that I was doing on my own. I just needed to find research that I believed in, resonated with, vetted. And then it's like, all right, like, do I have to do X, Y, and Z myself, or can I build a team around me that will help, right? And to kind of go back to the Avengers analogy, right? Like none of them were able to they all had success on their own, but together, like that's when they were able to conquer the universe or save the universe, as it may be.
No, that's interesting, and my oldest is going to be 5 in November, so I experienced the exact same thing. Even I gained 30 pounds, not 50 pounds, but same thing. It's I think in trading, a lot of our success comes from, at least in the beginning, just having that set system and dedicating so much energy towards doing it, and then it no longer becomes the priority. It's, obviously when you have kids, it's like, hey, this is now the most important thing in my life. Trading takes a back seat. How can I be just as successful, but not giving it as much time? You can say the same thing for being a father. How can you be a very successful father if you take half the time you want away from your kid? Probably not. So it's the balancing act. But I'm just curious, in general, what got you interested in the markets in the first place? So what was the moment, or what was the thing that said, hey, this financial thing is kind of interesting, I should pursue this career path? What was it? And when was it as well? How long ago?
I think I was maybe about 12 or 13.
Ooh, wow.
I remember though walking in the backyard. I was living in Astoria, Queens at the time, and like that's New York City. So just like a backyard is not like grass or anything like that. There was everything's paved, a long row of garages, and we had like one of those row houses, right? So I was walking in the backyard with my uncle, and he's telling me, "Oh, Michael, you should really start looking at the Wall Street Journal and looking at all these stock things. There's a lot of really interesting things in there. You should start to learn about them. I'm looking at this company right now, and it makes these circuits that let one piece of electronics talk to another piece, and there's no wires, right? Turned out to be Bluetooth."
Wireless Bluetooth? Unheard of. No way. That will never.
Well, so he's looking at that, didn't dawn on me until later on, like, oh wow, like he's actually talking about Bluetooth. But it's like, all right, there's like something to this, and it wasn't until I got to where I graduated high school and I got my first job, started earning a little bit of money that I saved up, and then it's like, all right, let's test out the waters of this trading thing.
Nice. And did you get started? I guess what was your method of getting started? Were you kind of just all over the place figuring things out, or did you?
Oh, instant success.
Were you primed? It's a success.
Again, no. Unfortunately, I learned many things the hard way. So I saved up about $5,000, and I went to my local bank, Astoria Federal Bank at the time, and they had one of those booths set up, one of those financial management booths, and I thought that's where you go to start open an account, place trades. And so I walked in, and I'm like, I want to buy stocks, and they're like, no, you don't. That's way too risky. What you want is this. And so they pull out a bunch of prospectuses for these mutual funds, and I start sitting there. I'm reading through these things, and the manager's like, what are you doing? Nobody reads those. And I'm like, oh, okay. I flipped through it a little faster, and I picked this one, and this one. And it turns out to be some stock funds and a bond fund. And I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm being smart. I've got professionals managing my money. I'm not planning on touching this for a little while, so I've got time on my side. I'm diversified. There's 100 or so different stocks and bonds in each of these things, and I'm good to go. And it's 1999. Right? I didn't know anything about dot-com bubbles or NASDAQ or S&P or any of that stuff. I just knew my idea was you take some money, you put it in, and more magically pops out the other side.
Yep.
And so the first 6 months, it seemed pretty good. I checked my account, and it's up 10%. I'm like, all right. That's a lot better than I would have gotten in my savings account. And so I'm working through my bachelor's at the time, and I start to forget about trading and the market and all that. Get to graduation, it's like, all right, time to go buy a new car. Let's see what's in the trading account or the mutual funds. And I thought that it would be up to maybe $10,000 at that point. Wasn't at 10, wasn't at 9. Didn't even have the 5 I started with. It was down to 4. And that's, relatively speaking, that's not that big of a loss. But when you're thinking that I just put my money away for 4 years, I had professionals, I had diversification, what in the hell happened, right? So I just took the money out, I went home and I cried. And that was my first real taste of the market and some of the things not to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that you went to the bank. I remember when I started in stocks and whatnot, and when I went to Forex, I had no idea what foreign exchange was. So my friend was just like, oh yeah, you could, it's a lot more liquidity. It's a much bigger market. You can make money quicker. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sold. You can make money quicker. Cause I was decent in stocks, but like, like I had this expectation of like this massive return, and it was like, eh. So anyway, I thought I didn't know anything about Forex trading. I just knew it was foreign exchange. So I thought I literally had to have like a briefcase of money, travel to the airport to little currency exchange areas, open the briefcase and like sit there and be like, not yet, not yet. Now, exchange my U.S. dollar for the Canadian dollar. Now, and then like get the Canadian currency, put it in my briefcase, and then just wait again. I thought I'd be traveling from country to country just doing that. I had no idea. So we're on the same
So there would
page.
just be like 40, 50 people all around these exchange kiosks.
That's what I thought. Yeah, just like you see the movies of the old pits on Wall Street and everything. I thought it was that. I get a colorful coat and then buy, and the things we don't know.
Man.
But so that's good. I mean, so what did you do after you put your money in? You expected something. You didn't get it. You didn't lose all of it, which is good. But you went home and cried. So what was the next step? What stopped you from just saying, you know what, maybe this investment thing isn't for me. I'll kind of take a normal route in life and not pursue it anymore. What was the difference maker?
I still like the story from my uncle still stuck with me, and I knew that like I still had an interest in it. So I started to watch some shows. I heard about this guy Jim Cramer and started watching that show.
Philly.
And I started reading his books, and one of the things that he talked about, like he did have some good ideas in his books, but one of the ideas that did not work for me was sticking with the story, or like sticking with a trade until the story changes. Because like then it's like, okay, like I got in at a X price, but the story hasn't changed, and it's coming down. Story hasn't changed. I don't see anything, right? And then I remember one time I was in this trade, and I called up the show, and I'm like, and I got through, right? And I'm like, whoa. Hey, I got into this one. Well, what do you think? And he's like, oh, the story changed on that like a month ago. And I'm like, what? And so I went, I sold it. Was like some kind of a company that made latches for auto parts. And I ended up losing, that was like a 50% drawdown in the trade. Not in the account, thankfully, but on the trade. And that wasn't working well for me either. And it was just going through these kinds of cycles of trying something, falling flat on my face, trying something else, falling flat on my face, trying something else, falling flat on my face. And it went that way for about a decade. And after a decade, right, like who the hell stays with something for that long? And you're just getting, can I cuss on this?
Sure, feel free, man.
So you're getting your ass kicked, right, left and right by and who continues after that? But for some reason, like I continued to persevere, right? To go back to the credo, persevere, and eventually I found How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill. And for me, that was the major turning point, because it was it just made a lot of sense, everything that he spoke about in his book, for how he went about finding the best trades, and what he saw as that. So like his process was, all right, if we're going to look at finding the next big winners in the market, it makes sense then to see what were the stocks that ran up 500, 1,000% or more in a relatively short period of time throughout history, and see what were the common traits. And what he found was that there were common traits among these types of stocks, and he wrote them all in this book. And it's, all right, great. Then I found his newspaper, Investors Business Daily, and in there was a section about meetup groups. So there were Investors Business Daily meetup groups all throughout the country. I think they're global too. And I went to one of those meetings and I was completely blown away by the level of presentations and the types of people running it. At the time, there was a hedge fund manager and a few full-time traders running this group. And I studied with those guys for a year, right? So now, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but I'm getting coaches, I'm getting mentors, I'm getting an environment around me. And now like things are starting to stick. Now I'm starting to actually do well, right? Like things that I know that are core to success now, even though I didn't realize it then, right? Like mentoring, coaching, like modeling success, all these things. Now it all makes sense. And so after a year of being with those guys, I showed them like, hey, look, I've learned a lot from you guys. Here's what I'm doing well. What do you think? And they wanted to take what I was doing and incorporate it into what they were doing. Hedge fund manager, full-time traders wanted to do what I'm doing, and I'm just like some kid in the audience, right? And that blew me away. And the reason why was because I found ways to make it work for me as a part-timer that they hadn't considered because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
And so that's what also sparked the idea for what I'm doing now, which is trying to help other people that are in that path over the wall, because there's so many people that are trying to put all this stuff together, and they're struggling to go from the transition of being a part-time trader to being a full-time trader, and to have the perspective of somebody that's been through the gauntlet and has popped out the other side. I feel like I'm able to help a lot of people, and so that's what I've been doing over the years.
That's great. I love so many points of what you just said, and I know you can't see it right now, but I'm showing on my screen, and if I do kind of a visual version of this, they'll see it on the video. But it's one of my favorite charts. It's this chart of like the path to success. It's one of those charts where it's like a mountain going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and it has the things where it's like stay alive, lower your expectations, get stronger, persist, and fake it till you make it, don't compare, then the last dip, and then finally reaching success. And what I love about what you said is that you said 10 years. 10 years, and that tells me two things. One, persistence. Right? Persistence. It takes persistence to be successful in anything. Whether you're a basketball player, a soccer player, whether you're a CEO in a business, whether you're a trader, it takes persistence. You have to keep kind of chipping away at the success mountain, trying different things and messing up, and trying different things and messing up, and putting yourself in this situation and changing a situation and to finally make it. But it also shows that you're crazy. No, that you're crazy in a way, but you're passionate. Because if you weren't passionate about it, you wouldn't do it for 10 years. I don't know anyone that's going to do something for 10 years that they don't really enjoy. The only thing I could say is maybe a job, at least a job you're making a salary. In trading, when you kind of struggle for 10 years, you're typically losing money or breaking even. And I think it's so important what you said, because the mindset out there, and I'm sure you see it all the time, is that I should be successful right away. Right? I should start trading today, and I should be successful by next week. And the reality is that's not going to happen to anyone. Maybe there's a small 0.001% of super genius person that gets it. But the reality is it's going to take a lot of time to become successful. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to try a lot of different things. And what you're trying to do, or what you are doing, is you're saying, hey, here is my 10-year journey of making mistakes and errors and eventually learning. I'm going to take what I learned. I'm going to teach that to you and help you through it so that it doesn't take you 10 years. And it's exactly what you said at the end, where as soon as you start surrounding yourself with people that were in the industry that have done it before you, and you started kind of sponging off of them, that's when those big jumps started happening. And it's basically just using their experience. Hey, tell me what you did that worked. Tell me what you did that didn't work. I'm going to do more of what works and less of what didn't work. And you eventually became successful because of it. And I love it. And that's the message that needs to be out there. It's doable. it's doable, but you need to be passionate about it. You need to be persistent about it. And I think that's great. So what type of things, now that you've made it through the gauntlet, the torturous journey of going from consistently struggling trader to having success in the market, and now seeing this as an opportunity for you to give back and help others, I guess what are you doing to assist traders that want to be successful and turn to you for guidance?
So there's a lot of things that I do. There's a ton of free content on my Instagram.
And plug away your site, Phil. I was on it this morning. It's a lot better than what I saw last time. It's really branched out. Feel free to plug it. You can walk people through whatever's on there. Be as shameless as you possibly want to. That doesn't matter. I'm hoping people
Thanks
go
a
over
lot,
there.
man. So there's a ton of free content on marawealth.com. That's the website, Mara Wealth. And Mara actually comes from my journey as a marathon runner too, and getting people over that wall, right? Like where you hit the wall at mile 17, mile 18.
Yep. Oh, that's nice. So I see there's a few things on there. One that stood out to me, right, was the trade emotionator. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's our twist on position size calculator, but it doesn't just tell you about how to calculate your position size based off of, like you put in the amount that you have in your account, the percentage you want to risk, where you're going to get in, and where you're going to get out. But it's also going to tell you if you're being overly aggressive or if you're being a complete wuss.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want to aim for a certain sweet spot, because your position size is such a huge factor in whether you're going to be successful or not. Right? Like you could have been somebody that bought Bitcoin the day it came out, rode it to the top, and sold the exact same top. But if you had one Bitcoin and that was it, that's a nice gain, right? But is it going to change your life?
Nope.
Or you could be the guy that mortgaged their house and took every single dime that they had, put everything into this one trade, and maybe that works. Maybe you win, right? But then eventually doing that, you're going to lose. It just takes one blow up to so that's where the emotionator comes in to tell you if you're being overly aggressive or if you're not being if you're not using enough size.
Yeah, I think that's important. And what you just mentioned, I see a lot of examples of that, of traders that are the Instagram traders that are posting their screenshots of all their wins and blah, blah, I'm up this much percent. And, some of those traders are probably really, really good. But like you said, they're using such a giant position size to create that big return that feels good, that when it goes bad, they lose it all and they're back to square one. Instead of, if you were to use a more knowledgeable, maybe a less aggressive position size, you can ride that wave of the drawdown and continue your equity highs. So I think that's important. And even the emotion part. I was talking this morning with a trader just about the differences between trading a demo account, paper trading, and trading live money. When you have live money, it's a different game, and it could be tough to deal with. So let me ask you this: so what is the number one struggle that you've noticed in struggling traders? What is the number one or the top two issues that you typically see, and how do you go about helping them with that?
So here's a great example, and it's recent too. There was a trader that she lost 18 grand, and that was painful for her.
Yeah.
Right. And she was even struggling bringing up in conversation to me, and she would try to sweep it under the rug. Then she would do better, and she had consistency, right? Or she started to have consistency. She would hit be up 25% on the year, and then she would start to have some bad habits come back in, where she would be in a trade, right? And then the trade would start to move against her. She'd average down, and then sometimes the market rewards bad behavior. And then all right, great, that worked out. But then, it's that one time, and it just takes one where you're averaging down and the trade just keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And now I lost another 10 grand.
Yep.
So the first thing that most people do when you have some kind of a loss like that, like it's really painful to look at, and you don't want to look at it again, right? But then you're not learning the lesson that the market's trying to teach you. And so I look at the market as a teacher, and like a good teacher, like a good tutor, it will continue to give you the same lesson again and again and again until you learn it.
That's true.
So it's better to learn it than to sweep it under the carpet. So my advice to her was, you take that, you're going to put it on your phone, you're going to plaster it on the wall, and you're going to have that staring at you every single day. And she's like, what? No, I can't do that. But yes, like you need, like that's your path forward. Like the path forward is not burying it. The path forward is through. And so if that's staring you in the face, like guess what you're not going to do the next time that you want to average down.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
You need to eat it. You need to own it.
Write down your mistakes, put it in your face. That's that's brilliant. So many traders, they make up excuses for why it happened, and when you just accept blame, it's like, okay, you take your pain for a little bit and you learn your lesson, and you move on. So is it usually like mindset psychology? Is that typically the bigger struggle that you see versus just like trading strategy or trading knowledge of the markets, or is it more of a balance between the two?
It's to me, mindset's the game.
Yeah.
I think that you could make an argument that mindset's 100% of the game, because one of my favorite mentors, this guy Van Tharp, he wrote a couple of different books. The first one that I encountered was Super Trader, and the thing that he said was that you don't actually trade the markets, you trade your beliefs about the market. And that, right? So if we're trading our beliefs about the market, then it makes sense that we should unearth what those beliefs are, examine them, and see how are they helping us, how are they not helping us, and if something is not helping us, can we toss it? And if we can't toss it, well, why not? And try to reconcile all that stuff. We're consciously aware of less than 1% of everything that's going on, like in our bodies, in our environments, and everything. And if we were fully aware at all times, like your head would explode. And so because so much is just running on autopilot, that's where the trading mistakes tend to come from. It's that, that's where you start to forget that, averaging down is a bad thing, right? Averaging down is what led me to blow up at 18,000 and then another 10,000. Because there's unreconciled beliefs that like this is something that is going to help my trading, and then the market rewards the times that it happens, and it's reinforcing another a bad habit. So you want to rip out the bad beliefs, and then you want to plant something there, because if you don't plant anything in its place, then it could be another weed that grows. And we're not talking about Kronos or Tilray or Aurora Cannabis or any of those. It's the kind of weeds that you don't want. So you just got to rip those out and place a nice flower or something there that's going to actually help you trading.
Brilliant analogy, especially since I've got a massive weed problem in my garden out back. We've been trying to deal with it for really since we got the house. First year we got the house, I guess the owners before us had everything set up so the garden bloomed. It was beautiful. And then second year after that, just massive weeds. And I always thought that, and I'm from the city originally, so I'm not really used to flowers and gardens and stuff. I just thought you pull the weeds up, you spray a little bit, and they never come back. And lo and behold, weeks later it rains and it's right back. Never did anything to really solve the problem. Just said, I pulled it up, quick fix, and they come back. And this was the first year I actually took steps to kind of, doing something, taking action to prevent the weeds from coming up, and it's been working beautifully. So I love that analogy. If you just kind of do a quick fix, will return. That bad habit will return. You have to, instead of just getting rid of a bad habit, you have to remove a bad habit, replace that void with a new one. And I've always heard that's the best way to break a bad habit. For, for example, smokers, people tend to smoke at a bar or smoke after, have a cigarette right after dinner. So instead of just quitting cold turkey, it's like, okay, well, right after dinner, let me go straight to the gym, or let me do some push-ups, or let me go for a run, because now you're replacing that habit of the cigarette with a positive habit, which is a run, and eventually that becomes a new habit. So that's brilliant. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you have a big group meeting in a little bit, but let me ask you this: for I guess I don't know how you would even define an average trader coming in, but how long do you typically see is the process for taking a struggling trader and getting them on the right track? Maybe not, consistently profitable yet, but getting to the point where, hey, this guy or this girl is they've got the right mindset, they're on the right path. Now it's only a matter of time and experience in the market before they become successful. What does that path look like? I know it's not 10 years like yours anymore. You're helping them.
Yeah, no, I don't want anybody to have to go through 10 years of what I went through. And yeah, no, if you get coaches and mentors around you, like, it should not take that long. When I finally started to become profitable myself, it took me a year. I've seen other people that I've worked with, it takes them a couple of months, right? It all depends on where they're at. It depends on how open they are to to do what's necessary to get them to where they need to go. For some, it might be a lot of mindset work. For some, it might be systems development and tracking trades and finding a system that not only they believe in, but that they're able to execute, because it all comes down to what can you reasonably execute. Like you could find a system that produces 100% every single day, but if you can't execute it, then it's not worth that much to you.
Yeah, I'm happy you said that as well. I was having a conversation on, there's this group, this Facebook group, you should become a part of it. It's Stephen Burns has a Facebook group called New Trader, Rich Trader. And we're having a discussion in there about strategies. And it was one of I'm like you, I believe the best strategy is the one not only that produces profit, obviously, but the one that you can personally execute something you believe in, going back to your market beliefs. I've traded strategies for years that I've tested and were profitable, but I didn't believe in them. They were against kind of my philosophy on the market. So whenever I would trade them live, I would just sabotage myself, because I'd be like, well, I knew this wouldn't work because I think the market's supposed to do this and this strategy says do that. And I was talking to this trader and saying that there is no best strategy. The best strategy is the one that works for you. And he was making the argument that, well, there is a best strategy. There's one way to trade and everyone should kind of trade that way. And I guess what you're saying is, well, there's the answer right there, is that's not possible. It's less about the strategy and more about the trader. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Even so let's how about this, right? Let's take traders out a lot. We have the a robot trading.
Yeah.
Right. You have a automatic trading AI doing it, and so you could just program this thing to work. Right, but even in those scenarios, and I'm re-listening to Market Wizards, right? Like that fantastic series.
Oh, yes.
And even those guys started to have some automated trading, and you don't the best ones don't just let it run by itself. There's times where they need to step in and reduce the position size. Right, because it could be all right, everything's lined up, bet the farm, and then nothing's guaranteed. So then the farm gets sold at auction. Now you're standing outside, you got your little pitchfork, No,
that's true. I'm a believer in that too. Even if you ask the best people that trade those automated systems, like you said, it's not just hey, I'm gonna leave for a year and let it do what it do. They're constantly managing it. Because market conditions do change. So, yeah. So, all right. I appreciate the interview. one last thing, if you don't mind, again, I'm gonna make you do some shameless stuff anymore. Do you
Sure.
mind sharing with the audience just what type of services that you offer? Again, you can go to marawealth.com, MARA wealth.com, and check it out. But if they're interested in, say, private coaching or any type of, I know you have a trader mind chat, and there's a lot of freebies on there, a lot of brilliant things that you share. But what is available on the site for them to kind of check out that would help them become a better trader?
Yes. The main thing that I do is one-on-one coaching, and there's a coaching page. They could click on that, and they could schedule a free 20-minute session with me. There's a button there. Just pick a time, and we'll be chatting, just like you and I are right here. There's that. There's a Trader's Thought Box, which is the top 10 things that I've learned over the past 20 years or so doing this now, and it's all those mistakes that I learned from, and I go through the top 10 of those, and I try to give traders a foundation of, like, here's what you really need to know, like, in addition to, like, all the different books that I've read, and like most that, like, I'm actually surprised at how little there is on mindset. Like maybe you get a chapter here and there. Like, there's just a handful of books that's really well crafted, like Trading in the Zone, Super Trader, and I'm hard pressed to find many others. Even in Super Trader, like there was a good portion of it, but it wasn't everything in there.
Now, why do you, and I know I'm supposed to be wrapping this up, why do you think, I've noticed the same thing, and whenever I recommend the book, it's, people get surprised. I never recommend, like, these technical analysis books, at least not many of them. I try to look for books that are more mindset and psychologically driven. Why do you think that is? Is it simply kind of a capitalist thing where it's like it's not going to get as many sales as, like, super Forex system or super trading system, or is it just people never took it seriously until maybe these times? Why do you think that is? I'm curious.
I think that people look to mindset after they've stumbled, and like most of the people that I talk to are people that have already struggled, and they're trying to find some kind of a solution, and they're kind of like at their wits' end. I think that if people started with mindset, then it would be a much smoother ride. And so that's part of what I'm trying to get through in the Trader's Thought Box, is like that's the number one thing that I talk about, like the first of the top 10. Then there's position sizing, trade styles, all the kinds of things that we already spoke about here. But and you know what? You might appreciate this too. There's another book that I recommend on mindset that's nothing. It's not trading, but it's everything to do with trading. David Goggins' new book, Can't Hurt Me.
Have
you read that one? Have you listened to it?
No, but someone
grab it on Audible. It's amazing. Like, you get like the audio version, plus it's like a podcast, plus it's like an interview. Nice. Oh my God! Goggins has been my running partner for a while. Like, I'll go and do these long runs with him in my ear. And there's like so many pearls in that book.
Someone just recommended. I can't even lie to you. I might lie to you. Someone just recommended that book to me. I'm checking my phone right now.
Stop the podcast. Download the book.
It had to be yesterday. The post when I talked about being hurt and I was screaming at the track and finding, instead of using hurt as an excuse. Someone said, "Have you read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins? That book is fire." Just
fire
yesterday.
Is an understatement. That book's like an inferno.
So look, that's a sign. Look, two people recommend the same book. I'm getting it. Getting it as soon as we're done. I'm getting it. I take that as a sign that it's meant to be. So yeah, my mind is blown now. Stuff like that. Out of all the books out there, it's random that those two books, or that book, gets mentioned twice within 24 hours.
Yes, I'd love to hear your take on that book when you're done with it, and how you believe that it relates to trading. Because to me, like, there's so much in there that traders can take from it and apply.
So it looks like I got a new running partner.
Yeah, man. Amazing.
All right, so yeah, I guess we'll wrap things up. I appreciate the interview. Again, you guys can head over to marawealth.com and check out what Mike has to offer. Also, as always, do us a favor, leave comments, leave questions underneath this video. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, feel free to leave comments as well. Do you want to share your social media just addresses and all that stuff?
Sure. Everybody can follow me at Michael G. Lamothe. That's on Instagram, Twitter, StockTwits, and that's the best way to find me.
Here we go. And I'll throw that in the show notes. I'll throw the names of the books that you mentioned as well, with a link to your website. And I think this was a great podcast, man. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on.
No
Always a pleasure.
No problem.